Hey everyone, welcome to the Intelligent Conversations podcast, where we believe everyone has a form of intelligence that resides within them. Our goal is to encourage these type of conversations for our audience to listen to. Without further ado, welcome to the show. Hey everyone, this is your host Josh Baker with the Intelligent Conversations podcast. Today I have the privilege to speak with Carrie Leaf. She is a mindset coach and a psychotherapist. She is specialized in behavior change, emotional healing, and helps boost self-confidence in others. She's looking to release a book called Therapies Yourself, Choose to Heal and Find Your Truth. So Carrie, thanks for coming on. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and what you have for us today. But could you start with giving me some background on how you became a mindset coach and why you are where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me here. So I have a long background in psychotherapy and in psychology counseling. So my undergrad was in psychology, my master's is in marriage and family therapy, and I own a college in New York. And since then, I have jumped around to a whole bunch of settings, some community mental health, residential services. I've worked in the hospitals, I've worked for the military, substance abuse, and now in private practice. So, and on college universities. So, I've been kind of around to a whole bunch of different places. And then, in the past, I'd say 5 to 7 years, kind of more landed towards my nation, my area. And that's how I got here today.
That's great to hear. I love that. Obviously, you've put in a lot of work to where you are today, and it's always good to see when people are successful based off what they put into things. So I kind of want to ask, what is it that a mindset coach, or I mean, I had to actually look up how to say this, a psychotherapist, actually do?
Yeah. So, there's, you can kind of split hairs, but so the therapy piece of it is going to be more, that's a little more broad. And we're looking at a variety of things and looking back into people's past a lot of times. That's a lot of the ways you can, or one of the ways that you can separate therapy from coaching is, the short of it, therapy is going to go back into the past and more into specific mental health things. Coaching is going to look now and into the future and goals and assume that your mental health is well balanced. So I do a little bit of both. When it comes down to the mindset, where I'm focusing with the mindset coaching is working on identifying any negative belief systems that people may have developed in their life, and then identifying those, clearing those out, and reprocessing those to have healthier, positive belief systems. And there's this big intertwine, between therapy and coaching. So in for the purpose of this, I'll just consider it one. But working with people's past experience of what they've developed with their thinking patterns, and then the cognitive behavioral therapy or theory behind that is what I think leads to what I feel leads to what I do. So changing those thought patterns and then getting a different behavioral result.
Okay, yeah, thank you for getting more in depth and letting people know what is it that they do. But I kind of want to touch on something you said. So what is, you mentioned holy crap, my mind just went blank. uh, so you mentioned that, oh, yeah. So you mentioned that there was common things that you see. What are some of those things that you find that are common in other people that they tend to struggle with and you need to change that behavior?
Well, there's a couple different ways we could go into that. So the thing is, I see people for issues across the board. I mean, people might come in for a zillion different reasons. A lot of common ones are anxiety, trauma, career, relationships. Those are in depression. Those would be the top ones. And I work with them all, but the thing behind that is generally, every case is individual, but generally behind all of those issues, no matter what they're dealing with, there's a negative mindset. There's a belief system, a limiting belief system holding them back. And so there's a whole bunch of common limiting belief systems that we have too, like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, something's wrong with me, I'm not safe, on and on and on. So there's some kind of common ones in that theme as well. But at the end of the day, it really, in my years of practice, I've been doing this for over a decade, and it didn't matter what setting I was in, it didn't matter what age I was working with, it didn't matter what issue I was working with. There were just some basics that I was going to need to work on with everybody, regardless of who they are or what they were coming in for, and that would come down to integrating, the mind, body, spirit, and identifying that negative belief system.
Okay, yeah, sweet. So could you kind of walk me through like what is your process? So like let's say that someone comes to you for you mentioned career. Let's say they come in to try and get out of that negative mindset of what they're doing in their career. What would be your process in identifying what they struggle with and moving forward?
Yeah. So step one is always I want to know everything about you, your whole life. What made you who you are? Where'd you grow up? What are what's your family like? What, were the dynamics there? Just everything that you've been through, physical health, mental health, like all the things, the big events in your lives, the relationships, those kind of things. So I can kind of get the big picture and see if I can connect some dots there. So I'm want to do the assessment, and we want to scan for environments that maybe could be holding you back or contributing to an issue that's keeping you stuck. And so I look at the basics, well, like I said, the big full picture of your whole
Yeah.
life, but then also some of the basic ones are also like, how are you treating your body? So, how are you eating? Are you exercising? Are you getting enough sleep? And then are there mental health symptoms? Are you experiencing anxiety? What are those symptoms? Racing thoughts, things like that. And then we want to look at, your belief system, spirituality, religion, whatever that might mean to you, and see where you're at in those areas. And then there's other environments to scan and evaluate as well. Like, how are you doing in your relationships in general? Are there patterns there? How are you doing with your finances? Like, what areas are causing problems or lacking or major stressors for you. So we're going to start there because we need to get you as well balanced, well grounded as we possibly can before we jump into the deeper level stuff like the negative belief patterns. So if you have a more solid foundation and you're kind of balanced and integrated mind, body, and spirit, like I've scanned these environments, I've improved my sleeping, I'm eating better, I've started to work out, I'm learning coping skills, I'm attending to my spirituality, like I'm balancing out these areas, then I have a stronger foundation to delve deeper into what might be the biggest problem. So like let's say, if you your example it's career, that could mean a lot of different things, but maybe I'm stuck, I can't move forward, I don't have the confidence to go to the next level. Once we have that solid ground, then we can jump in and figure out what is the negative belief system, often subconsciously holding you back from going to the next level in the career. And so with that, we got to dig into, more the body and the feeling of it, because sometimes people are aware consciously of like what they're telling themselves in their head, but a lot of times it's subconscious, and the head and the heart don't line up. I might know that, like for example, I'm good enough or I could get that promotion or whatever, but that doesn't mean that I feel it in my heart. That doesn't mean I believe it inside, right? So that's a little bit that was a lot thrown at you there, but that's that's a little bit of the process.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, just walking through that process, what spoke to me it was the actual like having balance in your life, because that's actually something that I think is big just with people I've interacted with. Because I mean, I've started a couple businesses, and something that has been big for me is like hey, you need to maintain balance. You need to maintain your health, because the number one thing I've seen CEOs, presidents, whatever you want to call them, they've come to me and they're just like, never give up your health, because that's their one regret. Is they're like, we sacrificed our health and now we're paying for it. Like, they're just telling me, they're like, even if you don't get an hour of work and you fall behind, it's totally worth it because you can still do the fun things and all that. So I like that you mentioned balance there, but I also I'm just kind of came to me just real quick, but I recently had, I think it was 2 3 weeks ago, I had Beth Shaw on. I don't know if you know her. She started Yoga Fit, and she's big on connecting the mind and the body. And I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that. How would you help someone connect their mind and body?
Yeah, and that's a big, vague question, right? And I think that you could get a lot of different answers from a lot of different people. Um, my experience with that and how I work with that is really, you hear people say this all the time, but what does it mean? But to get people to sit with their feelings, and someone tells you, "Oh, sit with that." Okay, like, what's that mean? What do I do with that? So sit with that, to sit with your feelings. Oftentimes our body gets that, we get a physical reaction to what we're experiencing before we're able to process what identify what is this emotion, what am I feeling. We I might feel anxiety physically before I can identify, like, I'm anxious, right? Because of the mind body and how it communicates. So when we get those physical feelings, we want to jump out of them. Or if we even get the emotional feelings, we want to jump out of them because they're uncomfortable. We don't like them. Like, make that go away. I want to think something else. I want to do something else. I just want to escape it. It's uncomfortable. So the sitting with it is allowing yourself to think about it, to feel it emotionally, but at the same time, identify where you're experiencing it in your body, because then you're able to integrate those and identify, okay, here is where and what anxiety feels like for me, or depression, or what have you. This is what this feeling, this emotion feels like physically for me. And then if we can continue to sit with it, I'll walk people through, and I'll have them walk through and sit with it for 30 seconds. What do you feel? What's it feel like in your body? Where is it at? Okay, another 30 seconds. What feelings, what thoughts, what emotions are coming up with you? Okay, can you identify the physical feeling? What's it look like? The temperature, the texture. So we really get to know what our body experiences at the same time as our mind. And the more we sit with it, 30 seconds, another 30 seconds, another 30 seconds, it doesn't take that long before we realize, like, oh, this feeling isn't going to kill me. Like, I can sit through this, I can sit with this. And in fact, if I actually face it, if I actually feel it emotionally and physically, it starts to dissipate. It starts to fade off a little bit, and it's not as intense as we allow it to be when we actually address it.
Yeah,
So
I
that was a
like the
lot, but
thoughts that you don't worry about it. So I like the thoughts that you gave there. I know it was pretty vague there, but I just want to introduce the audience here. So it's almost like I don't know if I'm using the right word here, but self-awareness is a big role of, if you're aware of what's happening in your body, in your mind, and then your surroundings environment, then I think you'll actually be able to, you know, make good decisions, progress yourself to where you want to be. So I kind of want to, because I bet this is probably a part of your process. I kind of want to hear this. And first off, I'll ask this: Do you have, when you're working with people, do you have people set goals of where they want to be and who they want to become?
Yeah, definitely. A goal helps us, like, have obviously something to work towards, but understand their values, right? Because what matters to one person isn't gonna matter to the next. So the goals do matter a little bit. Sometimes what's a little bit tricky about that is people aren't always clear, or they might be going after goals that aren't really truly in line with what their true selves. Maybe they're going after a goal to gain status or approval from someone. So we do want to evaluate what's your goal and why. We want the why behind it. But absolutely a goal is who you are now and who you want to be gives us that direction of what we're wanting to work towards, but we want to examine the goal and where it comes from as well. But you're spot on with the self-awareness piece. Absolutely, because so many of us are walking around out here, sleepwalking through life and just going on autopilot.
Yeah, I listened to this guy. I mean, he's popular among people that, especially Instagram influencers. He's Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm sure you've heard of him, but I just remember when he talks about self awareness. There's just something about him where you're just like, this guy gets it. Like he is so like he's able to do what he does and make the decisions he does because he's self-aware, and I think it just gives you that much more of an edge. I mean, especially I know I'm probably talking from a business perspective, but it just gives you that edge to say, hey, I'm just that much more because I'm aware that this is happening. So I like that you were
Yeah.
touching on that. So I kind of want to get a little more in depth here. So what uh what is there was there how did you become to sorry, let me rephrase this. So how did you become, like, how did you work through to where you are today? So like, was there something that just came to you and you're like, hey, I want to do this? Or was it a mentor, like a specific person? Who was it that kind of influenced you in this direction?
Um, a lot of different things. Well, my dad was before he retired a high school guidance counselor, and he was a professor at the community college. So, psychology has just been central to my upbringing anyway, in the way that he conducted himself and the way that our household, and talking about feelings and those kind of things. So, I knew since middle school I would be in the psychology field, and then life experiences, whether my own or my experiences with my clients have been, so since I knew I would be in this field at a young age, but then like I said, I've been a lot of different places and the road has winded a lot of different ways. And the one thing that really has stuck with me, I guess the two things, is that healing has to be holistically. It has got to have a holistic approach. You've got to look at the mind, body, spirit. You can't tackle one and forget the rest, and know yourself and feel whole and healthy all around. And then the other part, like why I center on mindset, is because that power of the subconscious is this it's crucial. It's our driving force. What we're aware of isn't the majority of what how we operate. We're operating off our subconscious, and so we want to really clear out the negative patterns in our subconscious and reprocess and rewire those to healthy positive belief systems. So then our autopilot, when we go on autopilot, is coming from a healthy and healed place, and not past trauma or just from familiarity and what we know.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for that. That was a great point. I think a lot of people could actually benefit from that. So I kind of want to uh, touch on this real quick, and that's, I mean, I like where we're going with the awareness, and I want to kind of get more on your thoughts. Like, uh, when you were mentioning the subconscious and clearing that out, what do you mean by clearing like negative thoughts out of the subconscious and rewiring it? What do you mean by that?
In one word, neuroplasticity. So, when we go through life, our spongy brain, 25 brain isn't fully developed until 25, right? So the brain is creating all these neural pathways all the time, right? And it's if A to B to C causality. So like if I do something over and over, you think of creating habits, right? Because the brain then links, oh, if I do A, it leads to B and then C, and then bam, it happens just like that, so quick. And So I try to describe it to people of like, think of your brain as a computer system, and it has everything stored, and then there's so many shortcuts that you can use, and it doesn't forget a single thing, not one thing. So even though you might not consciously remember things maybe from your childhood, your brain has it all stored, and that's default mode, and it's going to go to default mode all the time if we're not bringing the subconscious to our conscious and becoming aware of who we are and what we do, why we do, and we're just floating along. We will always go to default. So default is going to be 0 to 25 or 0 to 20 or 0 to 15 when you developed patterns and habits, maybe for survival, maybe to fit in, maybe to be liked, maybe to not get in trouble, whatever it may be. We developed habits and we developed a worldview of why things work the way they do in this world. And just because we developed them doesn't mean that they were healthy. They just worked at that time in our life for whatever reason based on our life circumstances, right? So what default mode we may have set and programmed in that computer, we will keep operating off of like forever until we decide, "Oh, that pattern isn't good and healthy for me." It might have like been beneficial for whatever reason when I was 9 years old, but it's not necessary anymore. It's actually causing problems in my life. But until we identify it and until we figure out, okay, this is how it developed, and until we then replace it with a healthier adult brain thinking pattern, we will always fall back onto what we were programmed to do in those younger years. So insight alone doesn't do it. It helps. Like it's helpful to say, like, okay, I see this pattern in my life, whether it's in my career or I see this pattern in my relationships or whatever. I keep doing the same thing over and over again. And then you can recognize that and you can have this insight and you can say, oh, I bet it's because of X, Y, and Z. I bet that's why I do this, only to find yourself doing that same thing again 6 months later, even though you're consciously aware of it now. But we are driven and we are operating off of default mode until we rewire that thought process, until we go in and we tap in and we integrate that mind body experience. We feel those emotions physically and we allow that and we sit with that and we let the brain take over and we let the brain process through of, okay, what happened back when and why I developed that doesn't serve me anymore. In fact, maybe sometimes it's shifting responsibility of our experiences, or it's forgiving ourselves, or whatever the brain needs to do to be able to clear those out, let them go. I'm not talking about forget them. You're not going to forget your experiences. You're just going to let them go, release them, and replace them with a healthier thinking pattern based on your current age and your current life experiences, not based on, 17-year-old you.
Okay, yeah, I actually I have a weird analogy here, so correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but it's almost like, so I understand a little bit about how software works, but I'm not like an expert by all means. But pretty much how that works is people, like, you code, you, like you said, insert habits, insert, if you do this, then this will happen type of thing. And
Yeah.
uh, eventually you'll get bugs in the code because you do something new, you insert something new, and it just, the two codes won't work, right? And then eventually you're going to have to either get rid of it or change it, the code that was previously there. So it's almost like updating your software. I know that's probably a horrible analogy,
Yes.
but
No,
it's,
that's perfect. I like it.
but
Yes, it's exactly right. Because like for example, let's say there's a strained there let's just say there's an abusive relationship with a parent growing up. There's, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever, there's an abusive relationship with a parent. And so therefore you've developed patterns and relationships to protect yourself from this parent, right? Well, that was necessary when when you were a dependent and you were living with that parent every day. But then you find yourself at 20, 25, 30, 35, getting into relationships only to have them result in the same way, maybe not a good way, because your settings are still set to protect, defend, don't trust, all these things. You're doing what you've been programmed to do, and you're trying to keep yourself safe, but it won't work in an intimate dating relationship. It was only the standard and only the programming that was necessary to survive that parental relationship. So yeah, we got to reprogram and upgrade, and otherwise it'll be the same result in relationships over and over again.
Yeah, thank you for obviously making my example a lot better and clearing up and using better words there. So I kind of want to keep heading down this road, and I kind of want to get more of your thoughts on uh, what is, man. This is the second time today. Holy, uh, don't worry. I'm usually not like this, but I
We all have those days. I get
yeah.
it.
uh, all right. I guess I have something else, but I kind of want to switch gears here. But so I've actually noticed something. I feel like a lot of people are, especially in today's day and age. I interact with a lot of people that are going to college, high school kids. Like I'm definitely that bridge. I'm 19, and they're like, the thing I notice is there's a lot of people that lack self confidence, and that's what you do. So I kind of want to hear what your advice would be for people that are that age group, so like 18 to 24. How would you help them boost their self confidence?
Okay, so to start with, it would be like I said, the assessment and those basics, like how are you taking care of yourself, right? Because here's the thing. If you want to work on self-confidence, but you're eating fast food every day and you're not working out and you're gaining weight and you feel sluggish and tired and like you're never going to feel confident if your body is wearing you down, right? You're not going to feel confident if you're getting 3 hours of sleep every night. Like you got to take care of your body first. You've got to and then it's, especially at your age, it's an exploration. You guys are at very, it's identity. Who am I? Right. So the confidence, I mean, that's going to waver no matter what anyway, because that's a struggle figuring out who am I. That's a big, that's a big question. Who am I? What are my morals, my values? Who do I want to be? So that's a process anyway. But trying to dig into that, like putting an effort into it instead of just floating along, like, who am I? What are my belief systems? What are my morals, my values, my worldview, spirituality, religion, whatever it may be. And if you don't know, that's okay, but go exploring, start to explore. There was in my 20s, I was bopping around in like different, 30 different churches in Brooklyn, New York, and Manhattan, trying to be like, what works for me, And for me, it ended up not being a specific religion, more of a spirituality and more of a new age path, but to each their own. And the most important thing is figuring that out, whatever it may be for you. So put the effort in. But then the other part would be, okay, so and I map this out step by step almost in my book, The Therapies Yourself, which you were taught, that book that I just released on Amazon. And so it goes into more detail of this process specifically. But then we would start with, okay, what's your problem? Confidence. All right. What does that make you feel about yourself? Not what does it make you feel like sad or low self esteem? What does it make you feel about yourself and who you are? Because confidence is a big, vague thing. And what does that exactly mean? So when you feel like, when you think about, I struggle with confidence and it makes me feel like I am, what? Fill in the blank. Not good enough, weak, ugly, stupid, whatever it may be. Usually whatever people their issue, their problem that they're presenting with, that's the surface level issue and there's layers underneath that. So, you could say, yours was confidence, but let's say We're gonna bring someone in that's struggling with relationships. Well, what do you feel when you think about your relationships or your relationships patterns? What do they make you feel about yourself, who you are? I'm not lovable, I'm damaged goods. We can break it down to a deeper core belief system there. And so you want to start with the problem, but then really delve in and be honest and vulnerable with yourself about what the true belief and feeling underneath that is. And that's uncomfortable to do, right? Like it's hard to admit like those lower level, deeper level like feelings about ourselves, but that's step one.
Yeah, you were talking about that, what came to my mind was I want to hear what you think about this, but as human beings, do we almost put up layers of defenses, almost like to protect ourselves from having those conversations, from saying, "Wait, what am I really?" and really diving into what you were saying there. I kind of want to hear what you have to say about that.
Oh, yeah, that's ego, right? The ego wants to fill in the gaps in the story to, good and bad, to make sense of the world, to protect ourselves. And the ego, has a bad rap, but really it's just trying to make sense of the unknowns and the uncertainties and things and how the world operates and where we fit into it, which on some level is, definitely necessary. But when ego gets in the way is when we have to protect that image or that belief system or that whatever we that story that we've told ourselves about who we are and the way we work and the way the world works. If the ego gets challenged of like, okay, that's not who I am because that's not what I've told myself and that doesn't feel right and fit in, and it gets challenged, we do anything and everything to protect and avoid and shut down and not go there. Where if you really want to get to know yourself, that means looking at what we call the shadow side, the parts of ourselves. We have a zillion different parts of ourselves, and we all have the good and we have the bad. So think yin yang, light and dark, good and bad. Every single one of us has it, right? And so if you really want to get to know yourself, you gotta break down that ego a little bit, get uncomfortable, tell yourself the truth about the parts of yourself that are like less than desirable, because we all have them, but that's the only way that you're going to begin to heal and work on, improve, and bring those parts into the light and make them better, is if you actually face them and admit that they're there, and deal with them.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said there. What came to my mind was ownership. Like I feel like you need to take ownership of yourself, not have it rely on other people and say, "Hey, this is my problem," or "This is something I need to fix myself," and take responsibility for it to move forward and progress in life and have great relationships. And I really like that you touched on that. So kind of as we're wrapping up here, I want to get your final thoughts, and that is, what piece of advice would you give to someone that's struggling, and just what piece of advice would you give to the world?
Okay, so a little bit of a summary of everything we said. Look at mind, body, spirit, evaluate those, areas of your life. Take care of your body. If you got to start in one place and you don't know where to start, take care of your body, start there. I really like to start with the eat, sleep and exercise. But at the end of the day, the 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 whole thing is like we've been talking about that awareness and find yourself, know who you are. So my strongest recommendation is to go on that journey of finding your true self. But here's the thing, we come out knowing exactly who we are. So really I want people to go back on that journey to find who they are, who they were originally before the industrial world drills into our life experiences and tells us who we are supposed to be, right? So finding your true self, going on that journey to find your true self or your truth, is really just a coming home. It's coming back to who you already know you are. You have all your answers. Nobody out there has them. No expert has them. No doctor, no therapist, no anything has your answers. You have the answers. So the journey is coming back to your true self, which means undoing the programming that we go to school, or as we go through life and in our society, you're supposed to go through school, you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to get that job, you're supposed to make this amount of money, drive that car, get married, have 3 kids, do all the things, right? And we live our life based on what we're supposed to do or what others think and what we're told and what, allows us to fit in or whatever. So my biggest recommendation is to push past all of that and come back to your answers and your truth and your happiness, because you came in this world with them, and the journey is to find them again. So get back to your true self.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's some advice that I think a lot of people can take to heart. And I think you summed it all and tied it in a nice big bow really well there at the end. And I really like the thoughts that you've been given here today. So if anyone wants to like reach out to you or like get in contact with you, do business with you, what is the best way for them to reach out or get a hold of you?
Yeah, the two spots that I probably check the most and are going to be the most available, one, my website carrieleaf.com, and then my Instagram would be the other one, at Carrie Leaf Coaching. So www.carrieleaf.com or the Instagram at Carrie Leaf Coaching.
Okay, yeah, sweet. Thanks for that. And you also, if I'm correct, you released the book by now. I know I reached
Yeah,
out to you later, but they can just find that on Amazon, Audible, all of that, right?
that's right. On Amazon, Therapies Yourself, either paperback or Audible. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed hearing what you've had to say. So yeah, just thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun. Technical errors and all.
Yeah. So everyone, as you can tell, that is Carrie Leaf, and as you can tell, she is an intelligent person and she has great things to say. So take her advice, learn, and just keep going on and having intelligent conversations. Tune in to next week's episode. We have a great guest lined up. And thank you guys for listening. Let's get after it. Hey everyone, if you liked this episode and would like to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe or follow button. We release a new episode every Wednesday for you guys to listen to. Thank you guys so much for the support that you give. We could not have done this without you guys. If you would like to be a potential guest on the show, check out intelligentconvos.com and there should be a form there for you guys to fill out. Thank you guys again, and let's get after it.